Hey everybody, it's Charles from HumbleMechanic.com. Today we're talking more odd things mechanics use to fix your car. So in May of 2015, I shot a video talking about some of the weird stuff that us mechanics or us technicians use to fix your car. So young, when it was a simpler time. In the comments, I got a bunch of really amazing suggestions and tips from technicians and from DIYers on things that are great to fix cars. And I also had several more that I wanted to put in a video too. So today's video is a compilation of both your comments and other things I use to fix cars. Now, in the grand scheme of things you have in your house, these are not that unusual. But it is kind of odd when we think about them in ways to fix cars. So let's get rolling. First up is the metal coat hanger. This one is one that I've been using for a long time, almost as long as I've been working on cars. And these are great to cut, to bend, and shape, to hold things. As a matter of fact, right now, I have a metal coat hanger holding up the calipers on the GTI while the suspension is out of the car. And once you're done with it, you can use it again, you can cut it, reshape it, or simply recycle it. Next up, the Turkey Baster. The Turkey Baster is great for pulling small amounts of fluid out of a reservoir. So let's say you accidentally overfill the power steering fluid or the brake fluid or the coolant, you just stick the Turkey Baster in and pull a little bit out. This is also great for taking samples of fuel maybe out of a fuel filter housing. You get a small sample, you put it in a different container, and you can analyze it from there. So for under $2, this is something that I really recommend everybody have in their toolbox. Now, this next one came from the audience in the last video's comment section, and it's one I have adopted 100%. I love this next tool, and it is very simply a seam ripper. Now, you might be thinking, seam ripper, are you doing upholstery, are you doing fabric work? No. What we're doing is we're using a seam ripper to open up wiring harnesses. This is fantastic, and it sure beats trying to use a razor blade to very gently cut open a harness, and you really do run the risk of damaging wires. With a seam ripper, you can get it right in the edge and slide it down very carefully and open up the tape of a wiring harness. This works absolutely fantastic, and as a Volkswagen technician, opening up harnesses is something we actually do a lot of. Now, day to day, I use the smaller one, and that's great for getting into tight places. But they also make ones that are a little bit bigger that, if you have the room, are even better. One quick tip, make sure you clean it after you use it. That tackiness on the wiring looms can make this a little bit less effective, and you actually will have to push harder to get the harness to open. And next up, old car parts. This is a spark plug that came out of my GTI, and what I use old car parts are for any number of things, really. But in the case of spark plugs, these are great to plug hoses. I have spark plugs in the fuel lines of the GTI, and this is going to prevent any fuel from getting out of the fuel line. Since this is a car that's going to be down for a little while, I get to make sure no contaminants get in and I don't lose any fuel. I would also use spark plugs to plug the power steering fluid line on Mark IV timing belts. So on a lot of the Mark IVs, you'd have to take the power steering reservoir off in order to get access to everything for the timing belt. On one side, I take a cap that came in the fuel filter for the TDI and I plug the reservoir, and in the hose side, I would simply put a spark plug in the hose. This did two things for me. One, it prevented power steering fluid from leaking all over the floor, and two, it made 100% sure that the line went back in the reservoir, because I would see a spark plug sticking up right near the cowl, and it would be a huge red flag that, hey Charles, you missed something. Now, the last one may seem a little weird, but actually works fantastic. Jellies. Petroleum jelly and water-based jelly. These are great for lubricating seals. A lot of times at the dealership, I'll use dielectric grease, but that stuff's really expensive. And while the water-based stuff is a little bit more than the petroleum-based stuff, they both work really well. Petroleum-based for oil, water-based for coolant lines. And this is great, just a tiny little bit. You can lubricate the seal. The seal goes on easier, as well as whatever component you're installing will go on easier too. This is a habit that I got into very early in my career, and I've kept it ever since. So make sure that you're not putting seals in dry. Make sure that you're putting some kind of lubrication on the seals. It can also help the seals seat. Now, you might get kind of a weird look from the cashier buying these, but you know what? That's okay, because I buy a lot of other things for working on cars like nail polish and binder clips that when you pile them all together may look a little strange. So Turkey Baster, petroleum jelly, and nail polish, you're probably gonna get some weird looks at the store. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up there. Questions and comments, you know where they go. Also, question of the day, what do you use that's weird and different to fix cars? Hey, if you like this video, throw it a thumbs up on YouTube. I always appreciate that. Don't forget to ding the subscribe bell to make sure you get notifications. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course on Snapchat. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Ooh, don't forget to go back and watch that other video. The light years different. The whole show is light years different than it was back then. Actually, something I'm really proud of because I think it's a million times better. Also, links down in the description to where you guys can get all this stuff.